Okay, we're good? We're ready? Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Safari Pedal Show. I'm your host, Abby. If this is your first time here, welcome to the Safari Podcast, Zoo, YouTube, Thing Wild Bandwagon. It's great to have you guys. Y'all, I have been anticipating this episode for a hot minute now because we are back with another amazing For the Love of Pedals episode in our Pedal Journey Amazing mini-series thing. I am so pumped for today's episode. Damian, who is the founder of Pedal Brainz, is going to be on the show, and he is going to be giving me and you all the scoop of what inspired him to start his company, Pedal Brainz, that makes very unique and really cool pedals that modulate your effects. I'll let him do the explaining so I don't kind of mess up the description of what it exactly does. So we'll leave that to him. But in any case, we're going to be diving into what inspired Pedal Brainz, what inspired the unique pedal designs, the colors, how running a pedal business has been, and just all things in between. And I'm just really excited to dive in and have a chat. So I feel like there's not much for me to add to this intro. So, guys, please give a very warm Safari welcome to Damian from Pedal Brainz.
Ta-da! Good to see you. Thanks for being here today.
Thank you for hopping on the podcast. I'm super pumped to have you here.
It's going to be great.
Heck yeah. Before we dive into your company and the pedals and get to the juice, let's start with who you are, what you do, and we'll take it from there.
Cool. So I'm Damian from Pedal Brainz. I make a series of expression controllers for guitar effects and synthesizers. Been doing it for about 3 or 4 years, kind of a pandemic project that went off the rails and onto my pedal board in the best way. So I play guitar. I got this kind of massive playback system back here and needed these devices to expand my improvisational ambient guitar playing practice. So it's kind of like I wrapped up the roots, the origin story, and the intention all in one little package.
That's amazing. You did 10 out of 10. That was fantastic. So I have so many questions, but I feel like I should start at the beginning. So this will be the order. What inspired you? Like, can you give a background, maybe go into a little more of what the pedals do? What inspired you to create that in the first place? The second question, I completely forgot what I wanted to ask, but I will remember and then ask it. So we can start with that.
It started as this project to try and unlock the possibilities of effects that have expression jacks on it. So we all have effects, some with more or less ability to expand on what you get from the knobs on the face. So, and this expression jack, it like opens up a wider world for effects where you can use traditionally like a foot controller to, modulate different properties of the effects, like classic expression pedal, wah-wah, right? It's just a foot controlled filter. But for me, like I got all these pedals, they've got expression jacks on them, and I'm always thinking to myself, what could I do with these? Well, at some point I started dropping in these foot controllers. I had 5 of them flowing around and still only 2 feet to control them. And so I began to imagine a way to unlock that without having to use my feet. So some way to turn those knobs, to use those expression opportunities for effects without touching it, right? Obviously, fingers usually kind of, occupied playing guitar. And so how could I unlock this? And so it was really there that I started to dig into electronics a little bit further, explore the possibility. It really started with a manual knob that you just turn, which became the first version of the Pedal Brainz No-Brainer. A simple knob that you turn, nothing fancy. Imagine it's your foot instead, and you go heel to toe, but it's just a knob, okay? This was me learning how to take advantage of expression. So from there, it was like, okay, cool, but that's still like a hand. So what can I do next? So I decided to start digging into using light to control that knob. And thus was born the third eye. So it still has that ability to use the knob, but now light that arrives to it and darkness will turn that knob with the wave of a hand, the changing, sun in the sky, or any other aspects. I had a person who would put this up next to their TV set and allow the light from whatever they were watching to modulate the expression control. And from there, it got a little bit out of control. I dug into Arduino programming, and I found a way to create flashing patterns of light, right? This is super accessible kind of stuff, right?
Yeah,
it's
for
like
sure.
on, off. And so I jumped off the deep end into creating the left brain, which is a controllable patterns of light using 3 different knobs. You get some cool patterns and modulation, but you get control over the light patterns that, again, very simply turn the knob for different effects. And so that's kind of where it started. I'll give you a sneak peek, because where it ended was with a left brain that is fully automated patterns of light,
Wow.
and not just in a passive resistance kind of way, like with traditional expression, but actually outputting control voltage. And we're going to put a pin in that one, because that was a long way from the start, that's for sure.
And how long was this journey of the first pedal till now?
Yeah, so I think I spent about 3 years from inception, a year before the first release, a year before I hit version 2, which just was a little bit more developed. So that was the first year. Second year, third year, I spent in R&D for this control voltage series, and I think I'm in my 4th year right now.
That's so cool. So, in terms of like how many things it can control simultaneously, like how does it, like, is there a limit, or you just kind of hook it up to everything?
It's a good question. I mean, we're going to have to dig into expression if you want to answer that one.
Let's do it.
Because I learned a lot through the process, and I don't know, like, what's your experience with expression? Like, where do you sit with it? When do you reach for it or feel comfortable messing around with it?
That's a good question. Well, I will say that before I became a producer, I started off as a guitar player. And so I started to acquire a series of pedals, like most people start, like most guitar players do at some point. And I honestly haven't really dove into expression in the sense of having something there modulating. It's been pretty basic till now.
Right. Well, you've got a great series that goes through different effects pedals and pushing sounds from the DAW through them to get cool effects. I really enjoyed that episode. And, again, with the power of a DAW, you're used to being able to just draw in automation curves to turn those knobs virtually in your VSTs, right?
Yes.
But with an expression jack on an effects pedal, to varying degrees, you can control the properties of an effect. Sometimes a developer will just give you like one knob to turn. Okay, so let's take, for instance, back to that example of a wah-wah pedal, right? On a filter, you might only get the ability when you plug in an expression jack to turn that filter sweep. Okay, simple example. maybe you take a chorus pedal, plug into the expression jack on that, and you get the ability to control how fast it goes when you change the expression value. But then fast forward to today, where builders are giving the ability to, through the expression control, set the knobs one way when the toe is down, and set him a different way when the heel is down. And now you're modulating multiple properties of that effect in real time. And so, again, there's a wide variety of ways that effects will open up this possibility and give you that control. And it's not often explored, or if it is, it escalates quickly to the point where you just don't have enough feet to dance on the pedal board.
Very true. Big problem.
Still working on that one.
Yeah.
And so, to varying degrees, like some of my favorite ways to use automated expression using something like the left brain is I'll set it on a very slow modulation pattern that, turns the expression up or down over time, and tie that into the feedback on a delay, so that once in a while, again, infrequently or within a pattern, that delay will just run away into chaos, right?
Yeah.
And then come back to being, an easy to understand delay pattern. Oh, that's one way I like to use it. But again, I've now got to the point where it is a 1-to-1 for the expression series, which use a tip ring sleeve configuration. So you've got a usual 1/4-inch jack, right? Tip is the tip. Ring is this little piece in the middle, and then the sleeve is what we call the ground. So it maintains a ground between your effects and the expression pedal. And the way that works is that most effects pedals will send a reference voltage on the ring of that jack. Okay, so the reference voltage is then modulated by that expression pedal, so turned up or down, and then returned to the effect pedal on the tip. Okay, and it's through that process of sending it, modulating it, and then returning it that the effect now knows, oh, the knob is set at this position and I need to do this thing with it. So it becomes this process of, taking what the effect pedal expects and returning something so that it can translate that into whatever the effect and expression is set up to do.
That's so cool. So you're saying that it's really coming from that process of the voltage, that is the modulation.
Yeah, exactly. So the voltage comes out, it gets modified, and then is returned to the effect, and that value is turning the knob virtually.
That's so cool. I'm like a little bit mind blown. I'm not gonna lie.
Well, it's been like that for a long time, right? Expression jacks have existed on effects for a long time. There's not a lot of standards over there. So how much voltage an effect expects can range anywhere between 2.5 volts up to 8 or 10 volts. Traditionally, about 5 volts is what they expect, but it's wide open. You have different configuration options across the Pedal Brainz series to be able to adapt what different manufacturers expect and scale it so that you can kind of get your expression into the pocket where you want it. I still think it's a very creative process to, dial in the right settings for what you're trying to accomplish, right? It sounds, maybe I made it sound somewhat mathematical, but there's still a ton of creative wiggle in there to get the right sound from an effect.
How has it also been like running a company, like coming up with this idea and like starting to really like establish yourself?
It's been great. We live in an age when you can have a bright idea and carry it all the way to the end of the road, breaking off each of the pieces and doing something like this, from the PCB manufacturing, from the soldering and assembly. You're doing artwork, throwing around vector graphics, or calling up specialists and saying, hey, can you do me some powder pink on this enclosure, because it's got a sparkle, right? And you can have these ideas, and there's just mechanisms in place to accessibly reach for them and create something from your own imagination. So that's really what this is about. The other piece of it is, I guess, connecting with folks, because first and foremost, it's enough to have it on the pedal board. For me, this has unlocked my practice and really achieved what I've wanted down on the floor, working independently, having this creative engagement with it. But then once you find an audience, once you have people who are interested in the same kind of thing, or they see the potential of it, well, again, we have great accessibility to reach out and expose people to these ideas, to these visions, to these devices. And from there, I think finding that audience and the inspiration that comes back. So now we're in a feedback loop of, oh, dang, what you did with that is amazing. Like, it drives the whole thing further as well.
Incredible. And I also wanted to ask you, what inspired like the colors in your unique design? Like, where did that idea come from?
Yeah, well, I think generally speaking, there's just enough gray in the world that I don't need to contribute to that color palette as much as kind of minimalism is, it can be appreciated, right? And so really it was about trying to find a way to bring more color to the pedal board or to these practices, because life's too short for boring colors. So Sparkle Pink was an obvious first choice. I've been a fan of pink for a long time. I think to go deep, like in menswear, this is not often an option. And so I find myself gravitated towards, trying to reach out of the color spectrum that's generally provided out there on the rack in the world when it comes to fashion. And so I think I'm extending that into the world of expression pedals.
I love that. And I also love how you said like life is too short for like kind of like the monotone grays. It's so true. So underrated.
Yeah. Well, there's plenty of opportunities for that. There's plenty of places where that makes total sense, right? And just having the option to reach outside of that, I wanted that for myself, expanding what I see when I look at the floor on the pedal board, but also it's just a beautiful art object ultimately that I'm proud to have shining out there in the world.
And it literally is shining. Got that sparkle pink, looking amazing. Got the knobs going. Amazingness.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, thanks.
This show in general is centered around the concept of starting out, being new. I wanted to ask you, do you have a piece of advice, perhaps, to musicians, producers, engineers, anyone that maybe wants to take their idea that they have for something and really make it happen, or also kind of get into the pedal space, perhaps?
Yeah, good question. My favorite suggestion might be to persevere, to recognize that whatever path you're starting out on has a long road ahead, and that you don't need to learn it all, solve it all, or win it all, because life is long, and you can follow that road, and you can take detours, and you can come back to it. Like there's you can cultivate that passion over time, and so to continually invest in yourself and what you're trying to understand or trying to accomplish, with the grace to be able to allow yourself the time to feel and to explore and to just take that journey over time. That there's no rush. You've got the rest of your life to explore these things in whatever way makes sense, and so take your time.
I love that. That's such a great piece of advice. Also, like I'm gonna be taking that personally, because especially nowadays on social media, there's always like everyone's in such a rush because everything nowadays is so fast. So I love that.
Yeah.
Slow down, y'all.
As a creative out there, creating and having the tools to be able to always be updating, always be sharing, always be contributing to the creative culture in whatever place you're doing that. Well, yeah, it's just kind of fun to see what happens when you do put yourself out there, and just how much a person does share about themselves or their work over time. It's staggering to look back at the output of creativity from a single contributor, and and they're just waking up every day to do it, or every third day, however often, right? But just the act of sharing oneself and their creativity with the world is its own process as well.
Yeah, we're modulating the world, putting out reference voltages into the universe. Keep doing your thing.
That's right. That's right. Electric Queen speaking the truth.
Yes, sir. Dropping lines,
Nice. Yeah, modulating the world. Dang, I like that one.
Dude, I see merch. I don't know about you. I see T-shirts.
Okay.
Gotta hop on
You do see T-shirts.
You do, guys.
Yep.
Yeah. I'm such a fan of merchandise. Like, I can't even begin to tell you. I was like, so cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, it's again, so you'd asked about, the process of creating a business, of doing this, and past a certain point, it does start to become, all encompassing. You want to hit all of the facets, right? You want to have the cool T-shirts. You want to have the website that dances. You want to have the examples that people can use as an access point to understand what you're doing. You want to control the framing of how that's presented in some way, and maybe control is too strong a word. You want to inform the way that what you're doing is presented, and yeah, so you start splitting it across all of these different facets to help reinforce your intention, which is that people explore what you're doing, explore expression or control voltage in my case, and you want to make that as interesting and as encompassing an opportunity as possible. It's a weird way to think about branding, I guess, but it's really all about trying to invite people to explore these things, and as you mentioned, find ways to leverage it in their creativity.
That's fascinating. I like that. I like that outlook on kind of informing for business.
Well, we do all get hit with our fair share of branding, messaging, sloganing, and it can, I think people can paint things with the same brush. Like, am I the same as a big box brand? And the answer is no, right? It's just me, a single person, with some collaborators helping to bring these into the world. And I'm just, again, at a place in time where I have the tools to make it look like I've got a cohesive idea about what this should be about. But it's not to be mistaken with a big effects pedal manufacturer or some other brand that is operating at a scale that's way larger, even if I can pull off some of the same fidelity or the same quality.
But I also think that's what makes it stand out, that it's also, you and not an it. Yes.
Well, ultimately, it is an expression of myself to carry these out to the world. Again, from whether it's my love of the color pink, whether it's my, need to turn these knobs without my hands or feet. It is an expression of that. The other thing is, this is what's at the heart of the left brain. This is just one of the little circuit boards inside of it. But inside is this brain printed on the circuit board. Again, to be able to try and express this idea of Pedal Brainz across all of the different ways that go into creating them. Again, maybe just one more piece of my expression as part of the art form of creating PCBs or creating these tiny little devices.
To kind of sum up the whole, my mic just ran away. So to sum up the whole topic of modulation, pedals, brains, lightning bolts, I always love to ask our amazing guests to either drop a piece of advice or anything that you want to say. Feel free to freestyle to the entire Safari Pedals world. Do you got something you want to say to the people? No pressure.
To the people, explore those opportunities for modulation with effects. If you're in the box in your DAW, you've got so much control to modulate, and just start to imagine how that could arrive on your pedal board. How could that arrive between your modular synthesizers and your DSP? How can you expand that and bring some kind of surprise and delight to your workflow?
I absolutely love that. And guys, I'm going to link all of the relevant Pedal Brainz links below, so you will know where you can find Pedal Brainz, get you a pedal, get you a shirt, be all decked out and cool. And
that's right.
Heck yeah.
Pedals and shirts and pink and sparkles.
And delight and surprise. Sounds like a plan.
That's what it's all about.
Yes, sir. Sounds like a plan to me. So,
all right.
Down below.
Thanks, Abby.
Absolutely. Thank you so much also for hopping on the podcast and blessing me with a life-changing revolution.
It's a pleasure to be here. I've enjoyed the series and can't wait to hear and see more from Safari.
Thank you so much. There will be more. And now I need to do more pedal videos. This is like. Recognize it. You won't leave me even if I tried it. You're the